Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. At UFC Vegas 79, we saw some atrocious performances, some downright embarrassing displays of MMA, and I'm going to give you my opinion on who needs to be cut from the UFC after their performance on this UFC Fight Night card. And believe me, it's a long list, and honestly, I could have made the list even longer. But I'm going to start with some honorable mentions, then I'm going to get into my actual list, saving for last on the list for who I want most cut from the organization. And honestly, there was almost a two-way tie for the number one spot on this list. But let's get right into it. Let's start with the first honorable mention, and that is Tamir Vidal. Tamir Vidal lost on this fight to Montserrat Rendon, and it was just an ugly fight, an ugly performance. And honestly, I never want to see her fight again. But she's only on a one-fight losing streak. She is 25 years old. She had an impressive performance in her last fight, which was her UFC debut. So because of all those things and the fact that we need some fresh women's MMA contenders, she made it as an honorable mention. But honestly, the way she performed was embarrassing. I mean, you know, the second and third round, first round she did okay, but then basically she just got taken down and just controlled there for the large portion of, I think it was the third round. Second round, no urgency at all almost in the second round, even though, you know, she was kind of losing on the feet, and then she gets taken down and controlled a little bit in the second round as well. Just an overall ugly performance, and honestly, Rendon could be on this list too, because her performance, even though she won, was an ugly performance. So I put her as an honorable mention just because she's young and because she's only on a one-fight losing streak. But honestly, if her next fight is as bad as this one, she needs to be cut from the organization. Moving on to my next honorable mention and my last honorable mention, and this may very well be my most controversial cut on the list, even though technically he's not on the cuts list, and that is Mateusz Gamrot. And I know some people are probably like, what? How could you put Gamrot on this list? I understand that injuries happen in MMA, but the way he celebrated from that injury from Rafael Fiziev, like he won the title, it gave me PTSD. Because as a longtime fan, I will never forget when Anderson Silva broke his leg back at UFC 168, and Chris Weidman draped himself in an American flag and ran around the octagon and was celebrating. Meanwhile, Anderson Silva, a legend of the sport, a longtime champion, obviously that was the rematch, so he had just lost the belt before that, was just writhing in agony, holding his legs, screaming in agony, and Chris Weidman's just parading around the cage, and he's just draped in the American flag. At least he checked that kick that caused the injury. You had Gamrot, who, you know, basically nothing happened. And maybe the injury happened on an earlier kick. Maybe it happened when Gamrot was looking for a takedown. He was holding the leg up really high. I don't know exactly. But just the way he celebrated, and then afterwards he's like, well, I train blocking. Well, I would assume you train blocking. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Obviously, I don't want Gamrot actually cut. He's a great fighter. He's a fun fighter to watch. But it just really rubbed me the wrong way, the way he celebrated another man's injury. It really actually bothered me, so I figured I would throw him in as an honorable mention. Moving on to my actual cuts list, my long cuts list, starting off with Hannah Goldy, 6-4 in her pro MMA career. She lost a fight against Mizuki in UA by decision, and honestly, it was a mildly competitive fight, but it was a horrible performance. It was a nonstop clinch fest. Nothing really eventful happened. It pained me to watch this fight. It genuinely pained me to watch this fight. And we already know Hannah Goldy is a super low-level fighter. She's lost 3 out of her last 4. And even the fight she won against Emily Whitmire, she was losing that fight and then got a submission. I mean, she's 1-4 in her last 5 fights. This is a horrible fighter. She's 6-4 overall in her pro MMA career. And she has 2 finishes to her name out of 6 wins. She's 31 years old. She's basically nothing but muscle. I don't really see any real talent there. I don't really see any real evolution over the past few years. And I just think she does not belong in the UFC. It's so bottom of the barrel. And to have her competing on any UFC fight card is an embarrassment. And I think she might have took this short notice. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. But I don't want to watch her fight anymore. She's a horrible fighter. This performance was horrible. All it was a clinch fest nonstop. And she just has nothing to offer. She's not fun to watch. And I just really think the UFC should cut her from the organization. I mean, you look at her previous fight, she got finished by Molly McCann. She should have been cut after that. She may have been cut after that. Maybe they brought her back on short notice. I can't remember the circumstances surrounding this fight because before the fight, I tried to block it out. This fight was even happening on the card. But she's a garbage fighter. She's a low-level fighter. She does not belong in the UFC whatsoever. Moving on to my next cut on the list, we have Jake Collier. Jake Collier. He lost to Muhammad Usman via decision. He had an okay performance, don't get me wrong. Look at his overall record. He is 13-10. That is craziness. 13-10. He's 34 years old. He's lost his last 4 fights. His last win was against Chase Sherman, who, I mean, honestly doesn't belong in the UFC himself. Fight before that, lost to Carlos Felipe. I mean, in the last few years, you know, since 2020, he basically has 2 wins. He has 2 wins. He's just losing nonstop. He looked okay in the first round against Muhammad Usman, but after that, it just seemed like he was checked out. Maybe it was the eye poke, but the fact that he's 34 years old, he's 13-10, he looks like he should be at middleweight. You know, to be a professional athlete, and it looks like maybe you should be at middleweight, maybe you should be at light heavyweight, and you're showing up at heavyweight. I mean, this is all you do. You're a professional athlete, and it's just, and then you're losing on top of it. I understand the heavyweight division isn't that good. Maybe, you know, if you're a natural light heavyweight, you're like, I'd like to try my hand at heavyweight because there's not very many good fighters at heavyweight. You're losing to bottom of the barrel fighters. Muhammad Usman's not that good. Martin Budai's not that good. Chris Barnett's not that good. Andrei Arlovsky's an absolute bum. Now, that was a split decision that maybe you could give to Jake Collier, but 4-fight losing streak, 34 years old, 13-10, had nothing to offer outside of the first round against Muhammad Usman. And then there was the weigh-in comments, you know, oh, your brother might be able to fight, but you can, or something like that. I don't remember what he was saying, but he was talking crap to Muhammad Usman. To come out and put on that type of performance in the second and third round, garbage performance, does not belong in the UFC. And at this point, I know the heavyweight division's garbage to begin with, but Jake Collier, I think he needs to join those guys like Roy Nelson and others who were fighting at the Kentucky State Fair for $150 in a funnel cake. I don't think he belongs in the UFC whatsoever. Moving up on my cuts list, next on the list, and this one actually hurts. This one hurts to go through, but it is Andre Fialho. Damn, man. At one point, I had high hopes for Andre Fialho. He is on a 4-fight losing streak. All 4 fights he got finished brutally in. He lost to the Dirty Bird, Tim Means, at UFC Vegas 79. Tim Means, I mean, he didn't even look like he was in the best shape of his life. He looked like he'd been hanging out on a bender with Clay Guida and his boys. And Tim Means came out there and just wrecked Andre Fialho. Andre Fialho had some moments, particularly in that second round and in the early first round, but his chin's gone, and I can't watch this anymore. This is hurting my inner soul. This is hurting to watch. I don't want to see him absorb any more CTE. He's just wide open. And it's just like, what is he going to be when he gets older? I mean, Tim Means brutally starching him out. Joaquin Buckley brutally starching him out. Muslim Salihov brutally starching him out. He made Jake Matthews look like a top 5 talent in the welterweight division. He made Jake Matthews look elite, and Jake Matthews isn't even that good. 4-fight losing streak, all 4 by finish. Honestly, he shouldn't even got this opportunity against the Dirty Bird. He really shouldn't have got the opportunity against the Dirty Bird. I had such high hopes for him. I think he was being too active. You know, he fought in September, fought in May, fought in November of last year, fought in June of last year. Why is he fighting and not taking time off when he's getting brutally finished fight after fight? He hasn't won a fight since UFC 274, which was Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje, but that feels like a lifetime ago. So I hate to say it. I really liked Andre Fialho. He had a close fight with Michel Pereira, which is crazy that now he's, you know, on a 4-fight losing streak getting finished by Tim Means. It's time. It's time. And honestly, I don't want to see him fight anymore anywhere, unless he's going to definitely win. You know, if he wants to go fight at the Kentucky State Fair with Jake Collier, then at least he can get some wins. But honestly, I wouldn't trust him in a street fight at this point. You know, he's going to end up like BJ Penn in the bar, you know, in Hawaii, where he's getting KO'd on the street by a random guy. You know, Andre Fialho, his brain has to be mush. He needs to take a long time off and then maybe come back. But I just can't watch it anymore. And he's only 29. This breaks my heart. This breaks my heart. He's been KO'd 6 times now in his career. 6 times. It's sad, but Andre Fialho, no longer UFC caliber. I don't want to see him fighting anyone, because he's going to be fighting Alzheimer's when he gets old. It's his brain's gone. There's so much CTE, and it just makes me sad to even talk about him. Moving on to the next fighter on my list. And this one, is kind of weird to throw in here, but she totally belongs. And that is Michelle Waterson Gomez. Michelle Waterson Gomez. Been around forever. Been in the UFC for a while. She is on a 4-fight losing streak. She got brutalized by Marina Rodriguez at this fight card. The fight before that, she had a close fight with Pinheiro. Fight before that, got submitted by Amanda Lemos. Fight before that, lost the decision to Marina Rodriguez. She has not won a fight since a split decision in 2020 over Angela Hill. And you look at the resume, it's absolute garbage. I think Michelle Waterson was never good. And I've always said this for the entirety of her UFC career. She got overhyped because there was fans who were being simps for Michelle Waterson. She was never that good. I mean, what's her best win? She's got a win over Felice Herrig. Oh, that's garbage. Karolina Kowalkiewicz is probably her best win. That's genuinely probably her best win. I mean, she lost to Tisha Torres. She got beat up and finished by Rose Namajunas. She has a win over Paige Van Zandt. Okay, fair enough. She finished Paige Van Zandt, who was a bum, who fans were simping over as well and was never actually good. So she doesn't have a quality UFC win in her entire UFC career. And she's been in the UFC since what? 2016, 2015, she was on The Ultimate Fighter. And then on top of all that, I never thought I'd be saying this. We found a worse parent than Neil Magny. Neil Magny's accustomed to whooping his kids. Michelle Waterson is inflicting psychological harm to her kids. She has to know she's a bum. She has to know that. And she's bringing her young children to the event to watch herself get bloodied and battered. That actually really annoys me. I'm so tired of fighters bringing their young children to events where they literally may get slaughtered. Sam Alvey is losing damn near more fights than he wins, and he's bringing his young children to the event. Michelle Waterson, look what happened to her against Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez beat her up so badly that literally Michelle Waterson looked like she got jumped by Clay Guida and his boys. That's how bad she was beat up. She was bloodied. She was battered. The referee looked disgusted to even be in there. She took so much damage in her 4th straight loss, and she has her young kid in the crowd. So normally I probably would have said honorable mention for Waterson. Maybe she needs to retire and not be cut. But bringing your kid to this event as you're literally a bum at 37 years old and watching having your young child watch you get the brakes beat off of you, she needs to be cut from the organization. Somebody needs to call Child Protective Services. But, I know she's been around for a while. Look at her record, 18-12 overall in her pro MMA career. Disgusting record. And, the fact that she's bringing her kid to watch this type of slaughter is an embarrassment and a referendum on her parenting skill. Moving on to my next cut. You guys all knew this cut was on the list. And that is Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage gets a win at UFC Vegas 79. Cody Brundage wins via DQ over Jacob Malkoun. I want him cut so badly. It's not even funny how badly I want Cody Brundage cut. He is a literal bum, essentially just showing up for paychecks and not even trying. I wouldn't even doubt it if he's literally just trying to get finished as quick as possible. That's what it seems like. The way he came out, threw a couple strikes, had like a takedown, got out scrambled, immediately gave up in the first, 45 seconds, is getting dominated. Then an elbow that Malkoun throws, while he's in the process of throwing it, Brundage moves into the path, which it's still Malkoun's fault. But the elbow barely even lands. It's not even really the elbow, it's the forearm, but it lands more at the base of the neck, which still is illegal. But it barely landed with any impact. And you have Brundage acting like he got hit by a car. He's holding the back of his head. It looks like as if he got into some type of car accident and he's trying to milk a paycheck because he's going to sue him. That was the performance that I got from Cody Brundage. He quit before that elbow even happened. As soon as the elbow even came close, he's like throwing his hands up to Mark Smith and looking at him. Totally there. Mark Smith stops it. And then all of a sudden, you would literally think somebody dropped a cinder block out of a 3rd-story building onto Cody Brundage's head. The way he sat up against the fence and just acted like he was so concussed and so brutalized. It was an embarrassment. He is an embarrassment of a man. It was so fake. I can't even come up with the words. I literally cannot come up with the words to describe how bad Cody Brundage looked at UFC Vegas 79. And on top of that, he gets the win via DQ. He gets the DQ win. He leaves with his win bonus. He should have been on a 4-fight losing streak. He lost to Cedric Dumas in his last fight, lost to Rodolfo Vieira in the fight before that. And, 4-fight losing streak with a loss against Jacob Malkoun. He shows up. It's like, oh, please hit me in the back of the head. Please, Malkoun, hit me in the back of the head so I can complain to Mark Smith and hopefully get a DQ win. And it works out for him. The guy does not even show up and try. He does not show up and try. We saw it in the Dumas fight. We saw it in the Vieira fight. All he does is show up and let me pull guillotines and hopefully I get finished after that. Let me just pull guillotine after guillotine. I mean, Dumas isn't even that good. He basically got dominated by Dumas. And now to come out against Jacob Malkoun and milk your way to a DQ win is a disgrace to the sport. It didn't even land that hard. And you literally have him acting as if he got hit by a baseball bat. He acted. Why is Ben Askren able to recover from the flying knee from Jorge Masvidal quicker than Cody Brundage is able to recover from an elbow that lands at the base of the neck without even full impact, and it's more of the forearm? How is that even possible? How was Andre Fialho with his glass chin able to recover quicker from Tim Means brutalizing him than Cody Brundage is able to recover from this illegal shot, which was illegal. I know I put quotes there, but it was technically illegal even though it was at the base of the neck. This guy was there to collect a paycheck, and he is a shitty fighter. He is an outright bum. He may be the worst fighter in the entire organization. Like, I'm thinking about it right now. He's on a very short list of worst fighters in the UFC. Is he auditioning to be Bo Nickal's next opponent? Is that what he's doing here? Because, if I'm the UFC, I'm making Cody Brundage a cashier, a grocery store cashier next. That's what I'm doing. This fight actually really angered me in the fact that he can go home and lay his head on his pillow at night and be like, yeah, I really milked that one. I got a DQ win out of it. I think we have a new champion. Cody Brundage is a new champion. We are crowning Cody Brundage the new PMF. You had Stephen Wonderboy Thompson just vacated it. Cody Brundage is your official PMF. I hate Cody Brundage. I think he's a bum. I think he put on an Academy Award-winning performance, but really not even. He didn't even put on a good performance. I take that back. Maybe to Mark Smith he did, but, the fact that he went out there and acted that way, and it was so obvious, it was so painfully obvious, I can't even say he put on a good performance. Dude's a garbage can. Cut him from the organization. He should be on a 4-fight straight losing streak. And honestly, cut Tresean Gore while we're at it. He beat Tresean Gore back in July of last year. So cut Tresean Gore. I don't want to see Tresean Gore ever fight again. The fact that he lost to Cody Brundage, I would change my name and I would enter witness protection immediately. That's an embarrassing loss for Tresean Gore. So add him to the list as well. But he's 29 years old. He's 9-5. And I think it's time for him to find a new career. I'm not sure that he even trains. I'm not sure he even wants to be in there. It feels like he's just going in there and throwing fights. I swear he's convincing people to put large sums of money on his opponent so then he can make money, some type of betting scheme. That's what I honestly think, because he straight up quit in this fight. But it's almost like he's trying to act like he's trying to win early with the explosive movements, and then he just quits in the fight. And then in this case, he's like, oh, I got elbowed in the back of the head. I'm out of here. Let me get a free DQ here. Just disgusting behavior by Cody Brundage. Moving on to my last cut on the list. And this kind of goes with Cody Brundage. That is Mark Smith. Mark Smith has ruined MMA to a slight capacity, okay? Mark Smith is the one that created this. He is the referee that created this DQ culture, this fishing for a disqualification every time there's something illegal that happens in the cage, even if it's accidental, but still illegal. He created this because years ago when Petr Yan threw that illegal knee and Aljamain Sterling put on that performance of his own, you literally had Mark Smith. I'm telling you, Aljamain Sterling would have continued. He would have continued. You literally had Mark Smith whispering loudly to the doctor in front of Aljamain Sterling saying, this was literally Mark Smith. Yeah, if he can't continue, then it's going to be a disqualification win for him. That was Mark Smith whispering. The worst whisperer I've ever heard. And he didn't even need to tell the doctor that. The doctor literally has no impact on that decision. The only impact the doctor has is checking out the fighter and telling whether or not he's fit to continue. He has nothing to do with the decision-making process regarding a win, a loss, a DQ, a no contest. Nothing. Nothing. He's whispering loudly to the doctor. And ever since then, and I can't remember specific instances outside of this Cody Brundage right now, but there's been other instances. You have fighters milking fouls for disqualifications. They are fishing for disqualifications. Mark Smith created that. And then on top of that, now Cody Brundage fishes for a DQ while Mark Smith is the referee, and he gives it to him. He gives it to him. They reviewed the elbow. They reviewed it on replay footage, okay? They could tell that it wasn't significant impact. I mean, it's pretty clear. They're in 1080p. They still decided, you know what? Even though Malkoun threw it, even though Cody Brundage kind of turned into it, and it was completely accidental, it was still illegal. Instead of calling this a no contest because Cody Brundage is, pretending like he can't continue because he didn't want to be here to begin with, but let's just call it a DQ instead of calling it a no contest. Mark Smith is one of the worst referees, and what really grinds my gears is he doesn't get enough shit. And you have the commentary team saying, yeah, Mark Smith's one of the best in the business. First off, on top of all this DQ stuff, the guy never shuts up. Does he like hearing his voice? Does he like hearing his voice on UFC broadcast? Because all he does is talk nonstop. Hey, I don't like the way those fingers are out there. Hey, don't even get close. Like, he'll yell, don't grab the cage, don't grab the cage, don't grab the cage, while fighters aren't grabbing the cage. Is your job to enforce the rules, or is your job to shout the rules the entire fight? Is that what his job is? Then meanwhile, when fighters grab the fence, he does jack shit about it. Start giving out DQs for that. When a fighter egregiously grabs the fence, I want the fight stopped immediately and DQ that fighter. If that's what Mark Smith wants to do. If he's going to throw out DQs for people putting on fake performances, acting like they got hit by a cinder block, Mark Smith is a terrible referee and people act like he's good and he's garbage. I'm going to start taking a list of every mistake that Mark Smith makes in the cage because he's literally a garbage ref and people act like he's good. He's nonstop moving into the camera angle, which I know that doesn't really matter, but he seems to be the only one that does that. He never shuts up. I swear he wants to be on TV. I swear he wants to be on TV, and he ruined the UFC because you've created a culture that now fighters, when they are fouled, they don't want to continue because they're like, oh, let me get an easy DQ. Let me get an easy DQ. I know the UFC can't cut Mark Smith, but they have influence over the commission, and they should try to get Mark Smith. He can use the little clapper. He can use the little clapper. He can control the timer. Anything along those lines. I don't want to see him in the cage. Dude's an absolute bum ref, and I never want to see him reffing another fight again. Now, in terms of who might actually get cut from this list, obviously, Gamrot, honorable mention, no way he's getting cut. I don't even necessarily want him cut, but I wanted to complain about his celebration. Tamir Vidal, I don't think she's going to get cut. Hannah Goldie, I think she gets cut. Jake Collier gets cut. Andre Fialho gets cut. Michelle Waterson probably retires, but she should be cut. Cody Brundage, I know he technically got the win. The UFC's either going to cut him or give him a really bad matchup in his next fight, because I'm telling you, the UFC doesn't like that either. They do not like what Cody Brundage did. And obviously, Mark Smith, he's going to keep his job. I'm going to do everything in my power to, call out Mark Smith for every mistake that he makes from here on out, because he's literally a garbage ref and nobody ever gives him any crap for it. And it's driving me nuts. And he's created this culture over the last 3 years of fighters trying to milk for DQs, and it's so annoying. Let me know what you guys think of this list. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.